Hello, this is Juicy Pat Lucy, and you're listening to episode 6 of the Juicy Details. Unfortunately, I have a little bit of bad news. JT Dunn cannot join us this evening. He had a bit of a family emergency to tend to this evening, and he cannot join us tonight. Family comes first. I completely understand that. JT, if you're listening, I'm sending out positive vibes for you and your family. You've been nothing but good to me, and I wish nothing but the best. With that said, I decided to continue on with tonight's episode, and I'm hoping it'll be a fun one still. So joining me right now for the Juicy Details, he has two distinctive nicknames right now in professional wrestling. He is known somewhere as the Megastar, and other places he's known as the Handlebar Haberdasher. I hope I pronounced that right, but please welcome to the show, Marion Fontaine. How are you doing today?
I'm great. You can pipe in some fake crowd applause right there, right? Like some fake cheering and things like that, because I didn't bring any audience with me.
I'll make a note of that for the next. I'll make a note of that for the next show. That's
no problem.
That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, you got it right. Handlebar Haberdasher. It's right. Funny because haberdasher is generally like a clothing, I'm trying to think what the exact term is, but it's like an old-fashioned kind of like stylist or something, or just a common, pretty much just like a common like street worker kind of sense. So it does play into the character a little bit.
Right on, and I would love to get into that character more later on, but first question I always like to ask on the show, and well, pretty much any podcast anywhere likes to ask this question first.
Uh-huh.
So, when and how, if you remember, did you become a fan of professional wrestling when you were younger?
It stems back a long way because professional wrestling is like one of the earliest memories that I have. Just watching it and having toys and figures and things like that. Probably the earliest memory that I have was around 5 or 6, I want to say, and I know that I got a Jake the Snake Robert Hasbro when I was really little, and I am pretty sure that's the first kind of wrestling item I ever had, and I remember that because I had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Rock'em Sock'em ring, and Jake the Snake would have to run around a Shredder and a Raphael to do any kind of maneuvers. So I didn't have a ring, I just really started with Jake the Snake. So that's kind of, I think, where it might have snowballed in a sense.
I would love to see that match in real life. Jake the Snake Roberts versus Shredder.
Shredder and Raphael, yeah. It would have been an interesting three-way.
Oh, yeah.
Sides would have been picked.
That's true. And then, how long after did you realize that, hey, you actually wanted to become a professional wrestler?
Well, I think it was always in the back of my mind kind of a dream to just be like a professional wrestler. I mean, growing up and being a young fan, you have no clue as far as like what it takes to get to a level of like what I was watching when I was young, like WWF. You didn't really know. And then as I grew older, you become more like knowledgeable and you learn more about like local shows that are being put on. And I think, probably around the time like high school was happening, going into college, a few friends of mine we'd all go to like certain independent shows here around back in Ohio. And I think that's kind of when I got the first idea that I could actually do it. Like before it was kind of like just a dream, like a cool fantasy to live out. But yeah, going to those indie shows, back in Ohio was kind of the first like, yeah, I think this is something that I could do.
And going off that, you later decided that you wanted to train with Mega Championship Wrestling out in Elyria, Ohio.
Yep.
And so, can you describe a little bit what that experience was like training with MCW? And I believe Chris Cole was a trainer back then, or is he still the trainer today?
No, not anymore. Chris really isn't in and around involved in wrestling so much anymore. But yeah, when I was there, he was training, and we didn't have like a very large class. People would come and go like as usual is the case, but for the most part, the people that were in and around my class was myself, my buddy Jake, who wrestled as Billy Taylor for a while, a few other guys, Tony, it was like East Side Eddie, mostly just guys that kind of stayed in and around Cleveland and Ohio. But we wrestled in a real small, pretty much, well, it was like a sectioned off garage, basically. There was like a building that had like, I think 3 or 4 garages in it, and you could rent out each garage. So you could pretty much fit the ring in there, and I think there was like a little space for like a couch and maybe like some random piece of workout equipment. So like, no, there was heating available, but we didn't have it. So obviously, like, summers were super hot, and then, winters were always super cold. But it was a really cool and fun learning experience to be there with Cole.
And how long did you wait until you have your first match after training?
As far as training with MCW, it would have been late 2004, and I'd say May of 2005, maybe a little bit earlier, but I would say it was somewhere in like the spring of 2005 is when I started wrestling shows like on a regular basis rather than, I don't know, just like a spot on the show here or there, but around May, spring, somewhere in 2005.
And do you remember, or do you still have any influences in your career?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of influences, but I feel like they're always kind of changing. I think it changes with like as you grow as a wrestler, as you learn more things, and you just you continue to learn. And I think that also goes hand in hand with like who influences you. Like currently, there's been just a lot of British wrestling that I've been watching from like the 70s and 80s and things like that, and it's been wrestling that I've never really watched previously, but it lends itself to kind of the style that I'm portraying now. So it works really well.
Do you have any favorites right now?
All British wrestlers? Oh yeah, Kevin Connolly is incredible. It's funny, he has like one match on YouTube, and everything else that I have are DVDs that have been shipped over from the UK, because there's been some really like hard to find people that I've been trying to like track down. So he's definitely one. Les Kellett is a really popular British comedian, and then there's like Ken Joyce is another one. Just really, really awesome British wrestlers who would like throw in a bit of comedy into their style, the normal British style.
Alright, interesting. Mm-hmm. I wish I knew more about British wrestling to have more of an opinion, but I'll take your word for it. It sounds like it's some pretty good stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of I guess you could say it is obscure in a sense. It's definitely not, what you'd consider maybe popular style as far as independent wrestling is concerned today, but I eat it up. It's pretty funny stuff. I mean, if you're familiar with kind of like, the style that William Regal started with, or like Fit Finlay started, or Johnny Saint, that lends itself to those are more, popular names that people, would be able to refer to.
Yeah, I would say Johnny Saint is as far as I can go, as far as British style of professional wrestling. Moving forward, you started with AIW in 2005, so early in your career, and you're still with AIW today. So, what's it been like wrestling with the promotion since day one? What are some of the biggest differences you see today than when it was all the way back in 2005?
Oh yeah, there's so many differences, like differences in roster, as far as like guys that are still with the company, but that changes at the level that we're at. Guys either move up or they just, decide to stop wrestling. So that's definitely one, guys are always moving in and out and around, or that. Also, just the production that goes into a wrestling show from 2005 to now. I mean, the time, the quality, and like, how fast things are released are vastly different than back in 2005.
So what were some of your favorite matches or memories from AIW, from all the way back then to now even?
Oh man, there's a vast array. I would say early on there was, Chris Cronus, myself, and Michael Hutter, or Derek Bateman. We were in a faction called the Sweet Dude Club, and that was a lot of fun to be in a faction with those guys. So we had a fun time, in the early days of AIW. It was also really cool, wrestling at Peabody's and some of the different venues that they used to run. Peabody's is, a pretty popular concert club, so to be able to wrestle there and say that you wrestled there was really great. And the Beachland Ballroom was another great venue that I got to wrestle in. And I'm a big music nerd, so like for me to say that I performed in those venues that I'd seen bands play in, that's definitely pretty cool on my list of things. Other career highlights are definitely, having the Intense title for a long run a few years ago. That was fantastic. I got to wrestle some good friends of mine that are also really, really talented wrestlers like Shima Zion and Chuck Taylor and things like that. Even Colin Delaney and I in the bare knuckle brawl that we had a few years back. That's definitely another highlight, just because how unorthodox it was compared to, what you'd usually see on a wrestling show. The JT Lightning tournaments, it's cool to be a part of something that's, in memory of such a strong local name who built Cleveland wrestling in the past, last 2 decades or so. So there's been a lot throughout the years, and I could probably go on and on, but those are some of the ones that definitely, stand out right now, just off the top of my head.
So going back to AIW, in 2012, last year, you created this new persona of yours, this new gimmick, as they say, is known as the Handlebar Haberdasher. So, Can you discuss a little bit of where that came from? Was that your idea solely, or did AIW, John Thorne, did they have any say in it?
No, they didn't. There was a commercial for I think it was Guinness. I think there was a commercial for Guinness, maybe a few years back, and it featured a bare knuckle brawler character, and I believe it was I think it was Eric Ryan who had just maybe sent me hey, have you seen this commercial? It's pretty cool with this, handlebar mustache guy. And so I was wow, that's kind of an interesting character. I feel like I look kind of vintage in a sense with my just looks. So I was well, maybe I can try and work this into my character and my persona. And, I thought it would make me stand out a little bit more, even than I guess I already do, or, make me a little bit more unique. So, from there on out, I just was yeah, let's see how far we can take this character and see where we can go with it. And it's been fun ever since. So.
And what was it like filming the promo for that? Because I gotta say, that's one of my favorite, promos, videos I've ever seen. I remember that video getting a lot of buzz at the time.
Yeah, it was really cool to see people enjoying it, even inside and outside of wrestling, whether it be fans or other wrestlers. I saw, I got a good response from people in backstage in the locker room. So that's always cool to see that people like what you're doing. It was incredibly fun. That was back home in Ohio, and we pretty much tried to be as ridiculous as possible with staying in the realm of training old timey. So it was pretty much just finding whatever was around the grounds and trying to pick it up and use it as strength training.
Alright, and so now you just mentioned you don't live in Ohio right now. You live in the Chicago area in Illinois, and in 2011 you started working with the company out there, AAW, All American Wrestling. Can you talk a little bit about working with that promotion for the past couple of years?
Yeah, that's been such an amazing and fun time. AAW is another one of those fantastic Midwest promotions that's, not just one of the best in the Midwest, but one of the best in the country. So it's great that I've, been competing there, on a regular basis since 2011. I've had a lot of great memories and matches, and, it's an honor to me right now to be, a half of the tag team champions with Lewis Linden. So that's even just like a cherry on the top of the sundae right now for me there. But yeah, it's really fun. The crowd, at the Berwyn Eagles Club is always ready to see wrestling. They're a rowdy bunch, and, it's always fun performing for those people out there. I love it. It's great. Great atmosphere.
Speaking of tag teaming, you just mentioned you team up with Lewis Linden in AAW. You sometimes team up with Jock Sampson in AIW. And then in PWO and Prime, you team up with Jeremy Maddox. So, what's it like teaming up with these three different guys? And, do each of them have their own, unique abilities that make you want to tag team with these guys? And
yeah, they've each got their own different kind of style and strengths to them, which is great because it adds, kind of versatility to each tag match. What you're going to see with Lewis and I isn't going to be the same kind of match that you would see with Jock or Madrox and I, which is great because you go into the day kind of with a different mindset on what you want to accomplish. At the same time, Madrox and I are more of like a brawling tag team, so we can keep it pretty basic and simple and just get, get to like a, just a very brawling style with those matches. And then Jock and I like to take it pretty old school and, like to be, interact with the crowd as best we can and all that. And then Lewis and I are just hitting things as fast and as furious as possible, trying to defend the titles. So each tag team has its own different and distinct style, and I've been having a blast having matches with all three of those guys. They're all fantastic partners.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so going back, another promotion that you've been with since the inception of it has been Prime Wrestling / PWO as it used to be. So what's it been like wrestling for that company since the beginning, and some of the notable differences and changes since its beginning?
Yeah, I think you can relate. When you start in a promotion, you've got a lot of hope for it, and you've got a lot of passion for it, and usually, that tends to carry out through while you're still wrestling for it. You just want to see independent promotions succeed and do the best they can, and have a good core audience, and just continue to improve. And like I said with, AIW, Prime was the same thing. We started just at, the Masonic Temple in Lakewood years ago, and then we've gradually, come along and, had for years had the spot, on, Sports Time Ohio. And then, just the quality of the product continues to improve, and the audience continues to grow. So it's always fascinating to me to see like how far the spread is, of fans that you can get and hear from that are watching you wrestle on these independent promotions. So Prime's been an absolute blast. Some of my favorite matches from my career have easily been with that promotion.
Can you name a couple of them?
Yeah. I wish I could give you like dates, and I'm terrible at dates, but Johnny Gargano and I have had a few one-on-one matches and a few like three-ways, in Prime with, like Jason Bane. Those are some memorable matches. I've had a great number of fun matches with, Matt Cross, and at the same time, the tag team match that I had that involved Brody Lee, Aaron Draven, and Kevin Nash was definitely a career highlight, to say the least. Any time wrestling at the Pavilion in the Flats in Cleveland for that audience is a career highlight. Every Resolution is always just it's a huge eye opener for me to perform in front of that many people. So that's always so much fun. Yeah, there's been a number, there's a match with Bane and I that I'll still look back on really fondly, where he actually defeats me for the belt. So even though I don't win, I still, enjoy the match that we had put on. So there's been just numerous opponents and matches that I can go back to with prime and look on with a smile.
All right, and so now we get to the major topic of the show. This upcoming Sunday, you are heading towards your first promoted wrestling show. It is known as extravaganza of wrestling exhibitions.
Yep.
So
it's a mouthful.
Yeah. And so I guess the first question I would like to ask about is how long has this been in the stages?
Probably, I mean, from the initial stages, it's probably been an idea that's been tossed around for most of the year, or probably at least early in the year for sure. The idea was just presented and came about, and then it's just kind of snowballed from then. And then the planning's been, months in advance to get this thing going and get this thing promoted and get it out there to people and, give a look to it and all those things so people can, it turns people's heads. So yeah, it's been a pretty long planning process to make this something different in wrestling.
And then, when did you know for sure that this show was happening? Like, when was it finalized?
there's been a lot of different moving parts here and there, and I would say maybe 2 months before or something like that. I mean, there were certain things that needed to be confirmed, and like once one thing was confirmed and set, then we could move on to the next. So I'd say, probably a few months, before the actual date of the show this Sunday. So like July or somewhere around there, it was like, okay, we're full on, we're full go. So let's start, putting out the word online.
Yeah, and it seems like this event has gotten a lot of buzz about it, a lot of word. Mainly, I mean, the roster for the show, the talent lineup is incredible, if I may say so myself.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, actually, I want to ask, is there anyone out there in independent wrestling that you really wanted to book for the show, but could not do it for one reason or another? Or is a roster, is it exactly what you pictured in your head?
Yeah, looking back on it, I don't think there were too many people outside of who we were able to get that I couldn't, I can't regret. The only one that I could say that I didn't hear back from was Bully Busick, who was a WWF wrestler from the 80s, and I thought he would fit really well because he's kind of an obscure character, from the WWF in the early 90s, but I tried to reach out to him and didn't really hear too much back on his end. But that was maybe one. I mean, as far as like, modern guys, or guys that are, prevalent in the scene today, we've got everybody that I had in mind or wanted to participate in the show. There's actually a tag team from somewhere in the UK. And I think it's the Fabulous, I could be getting this wrong because I just read about them not too long ago. Fabulous Baker Boys, I want to say. And they're a tag team that is also an old-timey tag team, but obviously to get them over from England is quite a cost. So, maybe if the extravaganza ever goes over across the pond, we can get them involved.
And so, do you see this event being a one-time thing, or if it becomes successful enough, if it's a big success, do you see yourself promoting more shows just like this one?
Yeah, I mean, right now there's been such a big focus on making this show unique and even like what we're going to be doing afterwards with, things for the fans after to see the show that can't come. It's been pretty much kind of like a tunnel vision as to what we're concentrated on. Just like, let's make the show as best as possible. Let's see how it goes. And then, once it's done and final, if it is a great success and we are able to do more shows, that'd be great. But it's just like, focusing on this Sunday as much as possible. Personally, I'd love to have the show maybe, I don't know, maybe do it in like a larger metropolitan area at some time. So, it's just, I guess time will tell. But for sure Sunday is is what we're planned on and focused on to make that as ridiculous and interesting as possible.
Yeah, so, and looking back, like I said, the talent lineup, we have Dasher Hatfield. He's a big favorite of mine.
Okay.
We also got Nicholas Valentino, Nicky Valentino, the $1,000 open challenge.
Yep.
Is that open to fans? Because
you know what?
I will get in the ring.
It is actually open to anyone in the venue. Nicholas has put up $1,000 of his own hard-earned cash to prove how much of a tactical shooter he really is. So, we'll see if he walks out with that briefcase or not. But yeah, the challenge is for any fan willing to get into the ring. As far as I know, Nicky may put some restrictions on that when it comes to day of show. But last I heard, he was willing to challenge anyone. So
if I get in that ring, he's losing that money. I need a good payday.
That's about as good as you're going to get.
Right. Let's see. We also have Greg Iron on the show. You have Lucha Libre action with Louis Linden and Juan Francisco de Coronado. This should be interesting. Chuck Taylor and Jock Sampson are teaming up, and their tag team name is Moonshining Men of Appalachia.
That's true. Yep.
Great tag team name. Thunder Kitty's on the show. I love me some Thunder Kitty.
Yeah, she was definitely one of the people on the roster that was, we had to get her for the show. It was definitely a must to have her participate in the show. So it was definitely a success to have her take part. So we're excited to have her, wrestle on the show.
Jeremy Madrox, one of your tag team partners. And then this is something I've been wanting to see, looking forward to for a long time. Yourself teaming up with Jervis Cottonbelly.
That's true. We're pretty much making the gentleman mega powers in a sense.
Oh, that's how it should be announced as.
Yeah, Gentlemania will be running wild. So that's exciting for me to tag with Jervis, because I know that we've heard from fans about the interest of pairing us together. So what better show than an old-timey wrestling show to have us team up?
No better show, no better time. Hopefully more in the future. We'll see, right?
Yep.
And then main event, Robert Evans, R.D. Evans, again, one of my favorites, and he takes on M-Dog Matt Cross in the main event. That's
true. It's actually for the World Championship of Professional Wrestling. Ooh. So a title will be decided in the main event.
All right. Stakes are high.
They're very high.
So, all right. So I think we can end the show with your plugs. Any plugs you want? Sure. I'm sure you want to plug more about this event. Any information you want to give out? The floor is yours.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, the extravaganza, like Pat you'd said, is this Sunday. It's September 29th. It's actually kind of a matinee show in the afternoon, so we can get people back and early to bed, ready for the work week next week. So, yeah, right. Yeah, we don't need late wrestling shows. Who needs that? So yeah, it's pretty much just going to be a old-fashioned characters all getting together and wrestling inside of a barn at the Huron County Fairgrounds in Norwalk, Ohio. The web address is oldwrestling.com, and old is E, so it's, old English spelling. Facebook and Twitter are the same. It's facebook.com/oldwrestling, twitter.com/oldwrestling. I've put a lot of time and effort, and there's been a lot of help from friends of mine to put this show together to make it extraordinary in a sense, to make it different, and to really give the fans an overall experience. We really are trying to make it just a completely old-fashioned atmosphere, and there's a lot of fun things for the fans that'll be for the fans when they come to the show. We've got some free vintage attire elements to give to the fans, so they feel like they're more part of the crowd, and we're encouraging fans to dress old-timey, to pretty much be a part of the throwback atmosphere of the show. We've got some sideshow acts that are happening. We've probably got the toughest ring girl known to man. She's tattooed up, and she's quite feisty. So I would say that any gentleman trying to catcall her, I would say you probably shouldn't unless you are expecting a knuckle sandwich. Yeah, there's a ringmaster, bearded lady. We've got just a whole kind of collection of sideshow acts. You know, the best mustache, the best stash and show is going to be happening. So there's just a lot of different variety and elements that'll be taking place during and throughout the show that people can enjoy and really bask in the essence of old wrestling.
It sounds like a lot of fun. It could be end up being the most fun professional wrestling show ever put on.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that was really the main goal, because I'd like to think that when I'm out there wrestling and performing in front of people that the fans know that I'm having fun and that they're having fun. And so the main goal was to make something different in wrestling and just make sure the fans are just having a fun and enjoyable time and able to interact with the experience as best as possible. So yeah, and we've even got, you know, 2 more elements that are going to be really fun is, we've got a concession barker at the show who will actually be hurling bags of popcorn to any fan that, you know, doesn't want to leave their seat, you know, that doesn't want to like move away from the action, so the concessions can come right to you. And, we've also got our resident newsie, who will be passing out the latest news as far as the show is concerned. So if you want the hot scoops, you'd be on the lookout for him.
Wow. I wish more events were like this. And then where can people find you on social media nowadays?
Oh yeah, the best way to get a hold of you know, Marion Fontaine, or to see just kind of like updates where I'll be wrestling, you know, videos and things like that. You can go to facebook.com/mustachefontaine. I also have a Twitter, and the Twitter is under a handsome gent. His name is Jay Notke. That's JNOTTKE, and that's another easy way to kind of see what I'm doing in wrestling, and then maybe you'll probably get a lot of other tweets about artwork in the Phoenix Suns. So
I'm guessing someone on Twitter already has Marion Fontaine.
They might. I never really tried to see if there was. I think someone already had Marion Fontaine on Facebook, and it was a lady, obviously.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
So went with Mustache Fontaine.
Yeah, we at the show ran into some trouble there. Our Twitter is The Juicy Details, but it's juicy with an I at the end instead of a Y. I don't know who took it. I still think it's Colt Cabana. He's after us, you know.
Hot on your tail.
Exactly. We're gonna get him one of these days.
But until then, you just shake your fist in anger.
You know it. Alright, so, Marion, thank you for joining us here at the Juicy Details. Pleasure to...
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. Yeah, this has been great. Thank you. It's, you know, any podcast or any time, you know, people have shown interest about the show and wanting to talk to me, it's really encouraging, and I'm glad to know that people are online or interested in the show. So thank you. It's a pleasure to do this and talk to people and, get the word out about the show and kind of like my background. So it's cool. Thank you.
I look forward to Sunday. So for Marion Fontaine, I am Juicy Pat Lucy. Thank you for joining us on the Juicy Details. We'll see you next time.